My name is Brian. You can just call me Def. This is the Disorderly Wrestling Review, and that was the Royal Rumble 2019. And my God, what a show. The Royal Rumble is always an amazing sort of gimmick match. It's one of those times of the year where even if you have a strong idea of how it's going to turn out, you never really know what's going to happen, who's going to turn up, what the surprise entrances are going to be, the exact order of events, because they're long matches, but they're so good. It's always my favorite pay-per-view, the favorite main roster thing to watch all year, and this one delivered. It's absolutely a great show. If you like the Royal Rumble in previous years, you'll want to watch this one, because this one absolutely delivers. Non-spoiler grade, like B+, maybe an A-. It is a really fucking good show. To run down the show, I actually got time to catch the pre-show for it today, which is something unusual for me in these reviews, so we'll run down a couple of those. The first, we had the Raw Champions, which was Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. They fought part of AOP. Like, it was Razor with Scott Dawson, with one of the Revival. Fuck if I know why, but Raw Champions, Roode and Gable won. Cameraman had a nice little slip. I'm sure you'll see the clip on fucking Twitter and Reddit in a little bit. But the cameraman had a slip up during Gable's entrance, and he just sort of fell on his ass. It was kind of... That's the only really noteworthy thing. It's a really short match, just, curtain jerker while everyone was still trying to find their seats. From there, the second match in the pre-show was the U.S. title match. It was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev. These two had a really, really good match. A solid, 3-star match. It wasn't... I don't want to say it's a great match, but it was decent. It did what it needed to do. It had Rusev looking like $1 million. It had Nakamura. You could start to see a little bit of that fire get back into him that he hasn't really had in quite a while. The finish of this match is the important thing. Towards the end of it, Nakamura was on the ropes as Rusev was building up this head of steam. So Nakamura does the heel thing. He starts to try to cheat. In this particular case, he was going to the turnbuckle corner to try and expose the turnbuckle. Lana gets on the apron and starts shouting at him, trying to get the ref's attention to get him to stop. And then Nakamura gets in Lana's face. Then this is, the classic misdirection sort of thing. Rusev doesn't see Lana, tries to rush Nakamura, just yelling randomly into the crowd for some reason. I don't know what the fuck the face is supposed to think in this circumstance. He's trying to attack Nakamura from behind. Nakamura moves. Rusev knocks Lana off of the apron onto the ground and lands on her ankle really roughly and sells it like death. Rusev is obviously concerned for his wife, and this lets Nakamura turn around him with the Kinshasa from behind and get the pin. Nakamura's the fucking champion again. What? Why? I'm not complaining about the outcome because I love Nakamura. I think there's still juice left into him if you can get this guy motivated. I don't know how, but I really like him as champion. I'm just confused as to why you would hot potato it back to him so quickly. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But that finish, the Lana thing, keep that in mind. After that, the third match on the pre-show was the Cruiserweight Fatal 4-Way. Buddy Murphy, Akira Tozawa, Hideo Itami, and... God, who was the fourth guy? It was one of the Luchas. It was Kalisto. And these guys had your typical 205 Fatal 4-Way match, which to say, it was a really high-paced, high-energy match. It was really good by Cruiserweight standards. It went 10, 12 minutes, something like that. Is a really good match. If you've seen 205 Live, you've seen these sorts of high collision course Fatal 4-Ways, and it was more of that. They really, really delivered. There was a couple of interesting spots because Hideo Itami was playing it off like this, too cool to be there sort of heel. He was really, really, really smart with some of the spots that he did where he just wasn't getting involved in the action. At the start of the match, he just fucking dipped out of the ring and let the other three trade back and forth for a couple of minutes, and it was smart. It was really smart, and the commentary even sold it as such. They're not getting more than 1 or 2 counts with everybody there struggling at the start of the match, so why get yourself involved? Why waste the energy? It's a really good approach. Unfortunately for the end, Hideo Itami doesn't quite work out for him as Buddy Murphy retains his title, hits the Murphy Law, which is a fucking beautiful finisher. It's a 12-minute match. Really good, really solid end to the pre-show. From there, we get to the main roster card, and the main roster kicks off with Asuka versus Becky Lynch for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Hot damn. these two are incredibly talented, so you're going in with the expectation that they're going to have a great match. And they had an amazing match. And for my money, it was the best non-Rumble match of the night. Like, it was really, really good. They beat the hell out of each other. There was lots of back and forth, lots of even trading. There's a couple of spots where, like, they're trading finishers. Asuka locked in the disarmor, and Becky Lynch locked in whatever the hell they call the Asuka lock these days, her finisher. It was a really, really nice match. The finish for it was rather interesting. Asuka goes over clean by tap out. She locks in the Asuka lock, and as Lynch is trying to fight out of it, she rolls over, but Asuka still has the hold while she's face down, flips over into a bridge, and it almost reminds me of the cat mutilation submission that Daniel Bryan used to do way back in ROH, which is really, really painful looking finisher. And Becky Lynch taps clean. I just didn't expect that for the momentum that Lynch has had carrying into this, and the rumors of her plans for Royal Rumble and for WrestleMania and beyond. I think it's clear they have something in mind for Becky Lynch. Her tapping clean didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I guess you don't want to diminish Asuka so much if you're going to continue Asuka out to Mania as your champion. You want her looking strong for whoever her eventual opponent is going to be. It just seemed like an odd finish. I was going into it expecting like a screw finish. Either she'd get the submission while Lynch passed out, or had a foot under the rope or something like that, or there's some outside interference from Charlotte or Rousey or something. But no, it was a clean finish. Just eventually, after a grueling match, Lynch got trapped and had to give up. It was an amazing match. If you're going to watch one match of the night that isn't the Rumbles, you should watch this one because it was absolutely fucking delivered. Going on from that amazing contest is the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. It's The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus versus the greatest tag team in the world, Shane McMahon and The Miz. And this is something where you don't know what to expect going into it. Like, the greatest tag team, The Miz and Shane McMahon thing, has been incredibly interesting TV, but you don't really know how they're going to play out in like a proper full-length tag match. Because, I mean, Shane McMahon's getting up there, and Miz isn't exactly renowned for his tag team expertise. I mean, he's always got like an entourage with him to, pull some shenanigans, but he's not known for exceptional tag team wrestling. But they had a really competent match, a really good match. The Bar was amazing at different spots, cutting off one wrestler or the other, and not in the traditional sense to where they just like cut the ring in half. They would like knock one guy off the apron and like beat him, leave him unconscious at ringside for a minute or two at a stretch. A really, really, really good match. Really solid tag team match. The finish for the match was Miz and Sheamus. Who did Miz pin Sheamus? I don't remember. But Miz and Shane McMahon go over. What? Like, your new tag team champions, the age of 49 is Shane McMahon with the fucking Miz. And they're getting cheered. Literally, you couldn't have written this. If you told me 6 months ago Miz would have been a babyface champion with fucking Shane McMahon, I would have called you a goddamn idiot. What the hell is happening? And I'm enjoying it. Like, I'm not complaining about this decision either. This has been an amazing turnaround. It's crazy. Shane McMahon, the finish. Shane McMahon hits a fucking shooting star press. 49-year-old man hits a fucking shooting star press for the finish. What the hell? It's crazy. It's an amazing match. It's a great tag team match. I highly recommend it. It is going to be a trend for the show. I'm going to recommend most of them because there's some good fucking matches. They just are. From the tag team match, we go into the Raw Women's Championship match. And that match is Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks. And the two of them had an amazing match. Sasha Banks is an incredible athlete, and Ronda Rousey has proven over the last year that she can carry herself with the best of them. It's not as good as Sasha Banks, or It's not as good as Becky Lynch and Asuka from previously in the night, but it's definitely Ronda's best performance so far, in my opinion. They had a stellar match. There was a lot of strategic targeting of the arm on both parts because, the arm bar and the bank statement, the arm is kind of an important thing. Even though the bank statement's more like a face crank, she traps the arm to gain some leverage. A large part of this match was Banks working over the arm of Ronda Rousey. Towards the end of it, Rousey selling it like death. And the finish for the match is Ronda Rousey doesn't finish with the armbar. Ronda Rousey retains. She wins the match with the Piper's Pit, which is this weird sort of almost attitude adjustment like spin out slam thing. It's kind of hard to describe, but it looks really, really impressive. She hits that immediately into like a weak bridging pin. It looks phenomenal. She gets the 3. Banks looks like $1 million here. I'm glad if rumors are true and Ronda Rousey is going to switch to a lighter schedule to a part-time thing after WrestleMania, I'm glad that they could get something in there with Sasha Banks because Sasha Banks still has a lot of mileage in here. She's someone you can still put the championship on in like 6 months down the road, and she can carry your division on either brand. She's really, really good. I'm glad they got to do something with her, but it's clear the plan is, while they still have Ronda Rousey, they're going to fucking steamroll her straight to the goddamn main event of whatever program they have in mind for her. After the Raw Women's Championship is the Women's Royal Rumble match. The Rumble matches, I'm not going to go through each one individually because they're amazing matches, both in their own right, and they're something you should watch. It's hard to describe the enjoyment I get out of this match type. It's a crazy thing to watch. It really is. The Raw's match, the women's match, starts with number 1 entrant as Lacey Evans, and number 2 is Natalya. Lacey Evans had a pretty good showing. She cut a promo before the match, and then the two of them got on. They had a really, really good showing. The match itself was really great. It was mostly current roster. There wasn't a lot of callbacks. There wasn't a lot of legends involved in the women's match. It was all current stuff. There was all main roster and NXT talent. There wasn't any like crazy shenanigans, which I'm glad for. I like the fact that they're focusing on talent that they currently have signed, including some NXT talent. Io Shirai and Kairi Sane both got really, really good moments and a lot of focus, particularly Io Shirai was in there for quite a long time. And Rhea Ripley from the UK brand was in there for a long time and looked like a monster. They had her dominating for so long in the match. It was really exciting to see. Rhea is incredible talent. If you want, your big fucking monster heel, that's it. Whenever they fucking need a spot on the main roster, or if they dial back the UK division, she's fucking ready. Just port her straight over and she would fit right in because she is phenomenal. The rest of the match itself, Bayley looked incredible, which is something she hasn't had in a long time. She had a lot of strong moments going into the match. Nia Jax, obviously being the monster that they are, they're still pushing her like hell for some reason. She was continued to be a monster. Lots of eliminations, looked really forceful. Number 28 was Lana. Injured ankle and all. And she comes out there to the entrance heavily taped up. And it's she can barely walk. And it's a long entrance ramp today for this show. They're in Chase Stadium, I think, out there in Phoenix, Arizona. It's a really, really big field. And they had a reported attendance of 48,000 people. So it's a massive arena, lots of people. So it's a long entrance ramp. And Lana can't make it down the entrance ramp. She gets about a fourth of the way there and collapses. Medical trainers and stuff go to examine her as the regular match gets on there. And then it ticks by. 28 walks by her, beats 28, I believe, is Nia Jax, who just murders her. Walks to the ring and starts doing her monster heel stick that I mentioned earlier. 30 is Carmella, just walks by her and keeps doing things. And then after another minute or so, Becky Lynch, comes out from the backstage area to where they are trying to examine Lana. They've got referees, they've got trainers, and then they've got two producers. One of them is Fit Finlay, and Becky Lynch is starting to make her case to Finlay. Put me in the goddamn match. Listen to these people. It's clear that this girl can't fucking compete. You need 30 people. Put me in the goddamn match. And Finlay's like, fuck it. Go. Get in there. And Becky Lynch is in the fucking Rumble after losing to Asuka earlier the night. I've lost my goddamn shit. Becky Lynch is the best thing on the main roster for me at the moment. She is incredible. Her getting into the Royal, I don't want to say it's expected, but it was within the realm of possibility, but I'm still glad that they did it. Becky Lynch gets in there. They start tearing the house down. And the final 4, it's Bayley, Nia Jax, Charlotte, Becky Lynch. Bayley gets knocked out pretty quickly, and then it's the 3 of them. Charlotte and Becky Lynch can't leave each other alone. Like, they're beating the hell out of each other. Nia's just taking her opportunities, getting shots in while she can. There comes a spot to where Lynch is on the outside. She got rolled out for one reason or another. So Charlotte and Nia Jax are brawling on the apron. And then from behind, Lynch knocks Nia Jax off the apron and eliminates her. So Ronda Rousey retreats in the ring. And while she's waiting for Becky Lynch to get back into the ring, Nia Jax knocks her off of the staircase onto the ground, and Becky Lynch sells like she just had her knee destroyed. She's like squealing in agony and can barely stand and limps into the ring. And there's a moment where one of the referees is about to call a match off for favor of Charlotte winning when Lynch dives into the ring. Literally just one leg collapses between them. It's like, no, I can fight. Let me do this. And they just tear the shit out of each other. They have like a little short, like 5-10 minute sort of sequence at the final. It's just the 2 of them. And it's amazing. It really is. And the finish comes down to Becky Lynch throwing Charlotte over the top rope. It's just so good. It really is. It's one of those incredible feel-good moments. You didn't really expect Becky Lynch to win the match. I think most people had it on Charlotte, but it feels really good. It really does. She's the best part of the roster. She gets this massive feel-good moment. And going forward, it sets up Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. That's your main event. Like, that matchup is so goddamn strong. That could be your final fucking match of the show. Above whatever Lesnar is doing, which we will get to in a moment. Above whatever the fuck Daniel Bryan is doing. Again, we'll get there in a moment. Like, Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, the personalities are so goddamn big. Their response from the audience is so massive. You can make that the final match of the show and no one would fucking argue with you. It is that goddamn powerful. And I hope it does. I really do. From that point, moving on from the women's match, Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, they had the poor job of trying to follow that stunning match with a massive feel-good moment. The crowd went goddamn ballistic when Lynch won the match. So the cooldown from that is Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles. How can you follow that? And of the main roster matches, to me, this is the worst one. And it's not like it's a bad match. It was a decent match. It was very similar to the one that they had previously at TLC. It was a slower match. I'll be honest with you, I didn't like it nearly as much. It was still a decent match, though. Very methodical. Daniel Bryan being ruthless and picking apart the arm of AJ Styles, setting up the label lock and not letting him get his forearm off, which plays into the finish later in the match. Excuse me. But it just wasn't as good. They couldn't deliver to the level. The crowd was kind of dead for it, like I said, and this was it felt too similar to what they had previously. It was really hard to get excited for this match. The ending for it, AJ Styles goes for his forearm, but because his arm has been destroyed, he can't like vault himself up. So he has to like climb up the turnbuckle and then try to sort of leapfrog from there in order to get it. He misses the shot, and then Daniel Bryan goes to kick him. and the ref gets in the way. The ref gets knocked out. He's out of commission for a while. Styles recovers from this snafu of missing the forearm, hits the Styles Clash, rolls up and gets a 3. The ref's knocked out, so he can't count it. Why the fuck faces go for pins when the ref's knocked out, I don't know. That's a fucking debate for another time. As they're both sitting there recovering from the ref being knocked out, Eric Rowan comes up from ringside. From Wyatt family and Bludgeon Brother fame. Eric Rowan. Is legitimately, I have a hard time describing how fucking confusing that is to me. He hasn't been on TV in months since there was an injury and the Bludgeon Brothers got sidelined. He comes back by himself and interferes in favor of Daniel Bryan. AJ Styles, like I said, he hits the Styles Clash, and this is when Rowan gets in there and plants a chokeslam onto AJ Styles. I don't quite understand. I'm not against the idea. It's probably going to play it out like the Church of Daniel Bryan. He's got a new disciple after hearing his message of, the people need to be self-sustaining or wherever the fuck they're supposed to spin as heel whatever. Daniel Bryan's heel character is so snobby and so obnoxious, but the message itself is legitimate, I don't know how to feel about the character, but I guess Rowan makes sense in that where none of these parts make sense to me. So fuck it, throw in another one. We'll throw in a fucking cog here with these 2 gears, and we'll see what the hell we can get going. I'm excited to see what they do with it. And again, this was probably the weakest match of the night, and it wasn't even a bad match. It's just that finish really fucking confused me. So what you gonna do? But moving on from the men's championship on SmackDown, the next match is the Raw Men's Championship for the Universal title. Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar. My God, why can't Brock Lesnar be like this all the time? That's just my thought. Finn Balor's good. In high pressure moments, Finn Balor can deliver an amazing match. He's proven it time and time again. He's an incredible athlete. He can play up against bigger guys, working his speed, targeting really strictly on one part of the body. Normally it's he'll work on the stomach to set up the coup de grace, but he's really fucking good at that. And Brock Lesnar sold for him like a champion. He really, really went out of his way to make Finn Balor look like $1 million, to the point where he didn't even hit an F5 in the match because he couldn't get one set up from all the pain he was in. It was a very odd turn of events, I'm not gonna lie. I just wish Brock Lesnar was like this all the time versus, whenever the fuck he feels like it. I don't know. The finish for the match. Brock Lesnar, again, he's been worked over in the stomach. There was a spot where he got shoved into the announcer's table at ringside, so he's been reeling from that for most of the match, and obviously Finn's been working on it with the stomps, with the drop kicks. In the finish, he goes for a coup de grace, plants him right in this dead center of his chest, goes for the pin afterwards. It wasn't an immediate pin. There was a second or 2 delay before he could get over and get the cover. As he gets the pin at 2, Brock Lesnar kicks out, and he kicks out in such a way where he immediately torques and grabs the arm of Finn Balor and locks him in a fucking Kimura. And Brock Lesnar's got this glare death face that he does when he locks Kimuras, and eventually Finn Balor taps out. It's an amazing, amazing match. It's a good finish, an amazing match. When the fuck was the last time Brock Lesnar won with a Kimura? That's my question. I was talking to my brother because he watched it here with me, and I was just talking about, I haven't seen him use a submission in forever, because we were talking about ways that this can end. It's probably, an F5 or 2, and that'll be the end of it. And and he mentioned a while ago, didn't he break someone's arm with the Kimura? He's yeah, but it's been years, it's probably not gonna happen. He fucking pulls it off literally a minute and a half after I say that. It's a great finish. It's a phenomenal match. Brock Lesnar looks like $1 million. Finn Balor, importantly, also looks like $1 million. So whatever they've got planned for him next, I hope they keep pushing him, because Finn Balor, he deserves something. He really does. After that, after all of that stuff is said, we get to the main event of the night, and it is the men's Royal Rumble match. My God, what a match. It's not... It is the second year in a row where I preferred the women's rumble to the men's rumble. And it's not a nature that the men's rumble is bad, because this is another one where it's an amazing rumble. It really is. But the women's was just better, in my opinion. But to break down the men's rumble specifically, the start of it was Elias doing his concert. And as he's trying to sing his custom song for the good people of Phoenix, Arizona, Jeff fucking Jarrett is number 2. Fuck if I know. The good thing is that's the only major, surprise spot of the night. He's the only real legend or Hall of Famer they call back. Most of the rest of them are active main roster participants or NXT participants. They're actively contracted guys. Just the Jeff Jarrett stunt really fucking surprised me. Again, it's something so bizarrely out of left field, I don't know how to describe it properly. Getting into the match itself, it was a lot of what you would standardly expect from a men's Royal Rumble match. Lots of really crazy shenanigans, lots of Iron Man, actually, because Seth Rollins came in at 8 or 9. He was in there for a while. Mustafa Ali made his debut in the Royal Rumble. He was in there for 30 or 40 minutes. Samoa Joe was in there for quite a long time as well. Andrade, Cien Almas, because I'm going to use his full fucking name. Why would you cut off the fucking part? I digress. Andrade was in there for a while. He looked like $1 million. Rey Mysterio got in relatively... Well, not early. He was 20-something, but he was in there for quite a while. Rey Mysterio looked phenomenal, by the way. They really sold up his speed and his potential as a worker, and I just hope that they keep going with where they're going. I imagine that they still go with him versus Bryan at Mania, because at this point I don't know who else you would get for Daniel Bryan. As a minor... Anyways, moving on. It's a minor detail that we'll get to later. The match itself, once everyone was getting in there, was solid. Number 28 was Dolph Ziggler, which is a really, really unexpected, really surprising... Not really. On Twitter, Dolph Ziggler said he wasn't going to be at the Royal Rumble, and everyone's immediately he's going to be at the fucking Royal Rumble. And he's at the Royal Rumble. Who fucking... who are you expecting to fool? That's my question. You might as well fucking throw up a giant neon sign. Expect me late in the Rumble. Number 29 is Randy Orton. Looked like $1 million. I don't like Randy Orton. He had a lot of time where he was domineering and in control of the match for as much as you could be in a Royal Rumble scenario. Obviously, the RKO was phenomenal. But outside of the RKO, I just don't fucking care for the dude. Number 30. This is an important thing. Number 30 was R-Truth. As we know, he won the Mixed Match Challenge with Carmella, so they got the guaranteed 30 spots. Before he can make the way to the ring, Nia Jax. Yes, you heard me. Nia Jax beats the shit out of him at ringside, so he can't enter the Rumble, and then she injects herself into the match, making her the 4th woman to ever be in the main roster men's Royal Rumble. Chyna, Beth Phoenix, Karma, Awesome Kong, and Nia Jax. So take that for whatever it's worth. And she got an elimination even, because when she came in there, she was the big bruising monster heel for a brief segment of the final part of the match. With a lot of the smaller talent that was still left in the ring. Rey Mysterio was still alive at this point. I don't remember if Andrade was still alive, but Mustafa Ali was still alive. Seth Rollins was still alive. So it was one of those where she just came in there and she just fucking clotheslined and shoulder blocked and ragdolled a bunch of the smaller guys for a little while. And she got an elimination. There was a point to where all the wrestlers are starting to realize she's actually here and doing damage, and she comes face to face with Mustafa Ali. And Ali, being the fucking heart of gold that he is, he's the fucking perfect babyface in the entire goddamn planet. He's like, no, I don't want to do this. So it's response, fucking Nia Jax decks him and tosses his ass off the fucking side of the ring. What are you gonna fucking do? To eliminate Nia Jax, it takes a combined effort from, I don't remember. It was Rey Mysterio, it was Randy Orton, and Seth Rollins, maybe? No, I don't think Seth Rollins was back in there at this point. I don't think he was in the mix. But Nia Jax eventually gets eliminated. In the final four, it comes down to Andrade, it comes down to Dolph Ziggler, it comes down to Seth Rollins, and it comes down to Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman was late entry 27 into the match. So of the four of them, he is the freshest man at this point. And being typical big guy, he is leveling any and everything in his field. Tosses Andrade like he's nothing. There gets to a point to where Rollins and Ziggler are trying to double team to get Strowman outside of the ring, and it's just not working. He does the spot where he picks both of them up and sets them on the apron, runs to the back and tries to get a shoulder charge going, and Rollins moves out of the way, and Ziggler doesn't. Ziggler gets fucking ejected into the third seat by the fucking truck that's running at him called Braun Strowman. And the final two, it is just Seth Rollins and it is just Braun Strowman. And the two of them, as is traditional Rumble fashion, they have a little bit of a mini-match sort of segment trying to figure out how does this end. And as it turns out, it ends with a segment on the ring. There gets to the point where Strowman sets Rollins on the apron and tries, his thing. Rollins catches him with the guillotine and does the old Benoit shtick to where he, guillotine and drops and tries to pull the other guy off outside of the ring. Strowman lands on his feet on the ring apron. So the two of them are still live at this point on the apron. So in order to finish the match, Seth Rollins hits a super kick. Strowman still doesn't go down. Seth Rollins hits a fucking curb stomp on the apron to knock out Braun Strowman and win the Royal Rumble. Seth Rollins is going to WrestleMania. It's exciting. It was the predictable choice. Most people going into this had Seth Rollins as the guy that was going to win it all. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I'm still really happy they did. And I love the finish for the match. Because it came down to the two you would have suspected. It was going to either be Rey Mysterio from SmackDown had a small outside chance because you need a face opponent for the heel Daniel Bryan from earlier in the night. So Rey Mysterio is literally the only one that made sense. Or it was going to be a face from Raw to face Brock Lesnar, booked as a heel most of the time. So it was either going to be Seth Rollins or it was going to be Braun Strowman. And most people have been able to see this trajectory with Seth Rollins. There's been this massive, massive push, this massive effort to rehab that man's image, to try and get him from this massive unstoppable force to a directed energy force. The crowd has really gotten behind him. The Burn It Down thing has really been this solid anchor for his trajectory as he's just rehabbed himself from the architect gimmick to this Kingslayer to this unstoppable force in the company. And this is going to lead to WrestleMania, where hopefully he dethrones Brock Lesnar and sends his ass back to the UFC or where the fuck he's going to go. And we never have to see Brock Lesnar as the champion again. I don't mind Brock Lesnar. Like we were talking earlier in the night, he has an amazing matches when he wants to, but he's their world champion at the moment. The entire half of the company is held around that man not showing up more than 6 times a year. It's hard to write around that. You have a lot of your division just held up and not able to do anything because of it. They're focusing around other things or trying to manage it, but it's a huge problem when the massive anchor of your longer show, of your 3-hour show, isn't there. I just don't want it. I want your champion to go back to being a full-time act. Seth Rollins is that act. He's popular. He's over. He's the type of talent that people can get behind. And I look forward to seeing what they do with this. Him combined with Becky Lynch are literally your two best choices. They are your biggest, brightest futures in this company. And I hope they go fucking full steam in both goddamn directions with either talent, because that is the way you should do it. WrestleMania, it should be Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins, with Seth Rollins winning, and then the main event needs to be Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, with Becky Lynch winning. You send your two outside MMA guys back to part-time, and you put the focus on the superstars that your fans demand. Listen to the fucking audience tonight. Listen to them every Raw, every SmackDown. Your biggest chance consistently are Becky Lynch on Tuesdays and fucking Burn It Down on Mondays. That is the direction you need to go. It looks like they're going that way. And I'm really fucking glad. The show delivered almost every single moment. But that was Royal Rumble. My name was Def. Well, see you next time.